Welcome back to another episode of the Second Look Hockey Podcast. As always, I'm your host, David Leo, joined with Cristian Ceniti and producer Mando behind the camera. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. I've got my green Jameson whiskey hat on. I wasn't drinking Jameson this past weekend. I did split a couple of G's. Cristian, how was your weekend? I know you had a pretty interesting Saturday evening.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Well, I mean, we both got to some Leafs games this
Yeah, we
week.
did. We
Yeah,
did.
yeah, like we could end up starting there. But yeah, like even on Saturday, saw a lot of people in the St. Patty's Leafs gear. I actually was half expecting them to be wearing it on Saturday because I feel like there's some years where they do like two games.
Two games. Yeah.
Um,
I thought
yeah,
I don't know if you saw, but I believe they had posted a video with Carlton, and I believe they posted it Saturday evening, and it was like Carlton in the St. Patty's stuff. So I was like,
okay.
oh, nice, we're gonna get two, because I was like, there's a
Yeah,
game on Monday. I was like, that's automatically, like, there's a game tonight, automatically St.
yeah.
Pat's. But I thought 100% because I do remember going to a St. Patrick's War like game, not on St. Patrick's Day. But I think
Maybe
maybe that's
maybe that's
because
how. Yeah,
maybe because
maybe
the
that's
schedule,
why.
like, it just didn't align. So then I think that's why they did it like kind of just before they did a couple of games. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Anyways, I like they made the switch last year to like these kits. I do like the like this logo. The clover leaf is really, really cool. I wish there was a nice clean hat with that logo. Like I felt like I've looked online for something. It doesn't really exist right now. So hey Leafs, get on
hey,
that because I will
47 brand.
47 brand, please. The side is definitely 47
Yeah.
brand. Yeah, but no, good vibe. And then sports wise, the only other thing I got to, it's actually after the Leaf game, get home and my guilty pleasure sport, like you got football and I've got Formula One.
Football. Yeah.
Football, yes, you go
Yeah.
football. And then yeah, so I got Formula One, which started up technically Saturday late night at like midnight into Sunday was the first race of the season in Australia. And me as my as a Ferrari fan, yeah, did not go very well in Lewis Hamilton's debut. And we got like a just an all-timer piece of dialogue, like very, very Leaf-like, just in terms of like how do you like fumble this so bad? And just basically it was raining in Australia, lots of rain. And Ferrari driver Charles Leclerc is complaining on the radio to his race engineer. He's like, "Is there a leak in the car? Like my seat is full of water." And race engineer Brian something, I forget the guy's name. He might even be a new
Scalabrini.
guy. Yeah, yeah. I forget the dude's name, but he's like, "Hmm, it must be the water." That's what he told Charles Leclerc, is that it must
Like
be the
from the
water.
rain?
Yes, but like Charles Leclerc asked, like, is there a leak in my seat? Like my seat's full of water. And
Oh,
his
I see, I
response was,
see.
"Oh, it's the water, buddy. Did you not think about that?" And Leclerc, he responds back, he's like, "Let me add that to the words of wisdom that I've been told." Because he's heard crap like this from Ferrari for his entire tenure.
Yeah.
Like, anyways, I just had to vent about that
Just
because yeah,
okay, quick
sorry.
Ferrari talk. Like what? Like I thought, okay, so now as a kind of like a outside
Yeah,
fan,
yeah.
what, like, is Lewis gonna, like, are they gonna succeed now with Lewis like
It's not
at
a,
the
it was
helm?
not a Lewis problem. It wasn't a Leclerc problem. They finished I believe they finished oh, did they finish 7, 8, or 9 and 10? Like they did not finish well. I believe they finished Lewis was in 10th, so I think Charles was ninth. Um it wasn't the car that was the problem. They've done a good job over the past 2, 3 years of getting a very fast car, like a top three car, even last year, top two. So it's not that. It's not even the drivers. Leclerc is, I'd say, a top five driver in the league, and Lewis, when he's on his game, is right there as well. I think he kind of lost motivation in his last year with Mercedes, but he should be refreshed. So what does that leave us with? It's the strategy deployment. It's things like not switching to wet tires in the wet rain when everyone else does, because they at a point in the race they were in second and third place. but they didn't pit for intermediate tires, is what it's called. And that kind of led to their demise. So they would have probably finished on the podium, a double podium finish, had the race engineers and the team decided to deploy a good strategy. So it's yeah, it's not great. It's not
Not good.
great.
Not good.
No,
That
no,
does
no.
not sound great.
No,
If
no.
I mean, like it's one thing when you can like kind of blame it on like the technology and the stuff that's like on the field, but it's like if it's off track and it's like stuff like coming from higher up, that
Yeah,
is
it's
not
it's
not good.
infuriating. It's
Yeah.
absolutely infuriating.
At least you can pick out what's wrong if it's like on the track. You know what I mean? If it's something wrong with the car, it's easier to replace
But
than a human.
yeah, yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah, and they've done a good job with the damn car, which yeah makes it more frustrating. The last piece I'll leave is like if you just see memes of Ferrari online, by far the most popular one is like the pit wall with all of the engineers, with like clown faces because that's just like that's their reputation is that they're a
They're
bunch
just
of clowns.
bunch of
Um,
jokes. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Christian, I've been there before. You had a bit of a tough Saturday in terms of sports watching. I've
Hmm.
been there before
Hmm.
where, I'm a United guy. If they play on Saturday and then they lose and then a Leaf
The
loss,
double whammy is
it
tough.
compounds the misery. So
Yeah,
you went to
yeah.
the game on Saturday against the Sens. I went to the game on Thursday against the Panthers. We had the same result. They were both regulation losses. And if I'm going to be honest, for large stretches of both of those games, I don't know if they really had any life in them. I felt like I don't want to take away too much credit on both the Panthers and the Sens, but both of those games, I felt for stretches that the Leafs just they went to bed, honestly, if I'm going to be completely honest. And the Panthers I know are a pretty defensively like stringent team, but the Leafs had like no motivation on Thursday. From what I remember on Saturday, even still, like, what do they have? 12 shots heading into the third?
It wasn't a very high total. I think, yeah, it was not very high. Um, I think you're kind of summarizing it best though. Like they felt for long portions of, especially I'd say the Ottawa game. I feel like the Florida game was a bit more even, and some of the stats actually ended up tilting in the Leafs' favor. Like high danger chances from the spot were actually heavily in favor of the Leafs in that game. I think they were 7-1, which is surprising. Like I feel like if you watch the game, that doesn't really come through. But in that Ottawa game, there was stretches where they felt flat, right? Like the emotional investment wasn't in the game. Um, and that isn't the like that's not the case for the entire 60 minutes because in both games we had huge hits and fights, right? Or at
Yep.
least fights for sure. Huge hit in the Florida game with Domi and then getting into it with Nate Schmidt. And yeah, Scott Laughton get his first fight as a Maple Leaf in that Sens game against Ridley Greig, right? So
Yeah.
you had fisticuffs, you had physicality, but they felt isolated from the rest of the game, and neither incident really bled over into the action, right? Like, did you feel like after those fights that Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner were more compelled to really get a goal right after or anything like that? Like, I didn't really think that was the case. And then I'm gonna pull up here. I should have had it ready here. The Anthony Stolarz quote after the Sens game. Do you know which one I'm talking about, Dave, by chance?
I didn't see any post game.
Oh,
I'll
it's
be
a
honest, I like I was getting like by the third period, I was like,
yeah,
I don't know if I can watch another 20 minutes.
yeah.
Like
I
I
feel
really
that.
couldn't.
I
I was like,
feel that.
let me just enjoy my night because I know if I keep watching, like I'll be honest, I did tune in. I tuned in.
Yeah,
Like I'm gonna sit here. I'm not gonna say I didn't watch the rest of the game. Like I did, but I definitely tuned out for a good stretch of that third period,
yeah.
and
They
it was
they
probably
I
for
will
the
tell you
best.
what, man. The first half of that third period, they were there was
On
nothing
fire.
happening. No, no, no. I
Oh, the
would say,
opposite.
you know what? I would say like the I want to say like the 12-minute mark to the 5-minute mark is when they really came on. They were
Mhm.
throwing everything at the net. It felt like momentum was coming our way. I could feel something was coming, and it didn't end up coming our way, but that's how it felt. But to start that third period, like me and I went with my cousin, and we just couldn't stop talking about how many icings and offsides and on both sides. It wasn't like the Leafs icing it every time, but it just was like so stop and go. You couldn't get like any momentum going from the Leafs side of things.
It,
Here's this Stolarz quote that I wanted to bring up though, because
yeah.
I feel like it's a really good one. So here's what Stolarz said about the Senators after the game. They're just throwing pucks at the net and turning chicken bleep into chicken soup. Maybe that's something we can take from them and kind of incorporate into our game. And
Um,
Producer Mando gave us the stat here that Sens are 3-0 in the season series
yeah.
against the Leafs
Did
this
they
year, which is not
sweep
great.
us?
I believe that was the third and last
Because
game. So
yeah, yeah. There's
not
only
great.
three this year. Yeah. No.
So that quote
When
there,
when was the last time that the Leafs beat the Sens in a game?
well, we've won 6 of 7. We probably got one off of them last year, but like no matter what, like look at the record. Like we've lost 6 of the last 7, hasn't been good. You can even go all the way back to that COVID season where the Sens played spoiler a lot to a lot of other teams.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember
not
the
so much the Leafs
5-1.
because
Was it a
yeah,
5-0 collapse or 4-5-1 collapse that they had?
I
It was
remember
it was
Connor
it was a
Brown.
it was a multi-goal lead,
Yeah,
and they blew it in like
yeah,
within the last like 30 minutes of the game too.
yeah. I do want to go back to the quote though because I feel like he Stolarz kind of he did a really good job at like pinpoint nailing the difference that I saw between the two teams. It's just like it's not even like a systems thing. December 12th, 2023 says producer Mando for the last
My
Leafs win.
God.
Yeah.
That's almost
So
that's gonna be that could potentially be 2 full years by the time we
yeah.
get to next season.
Yeah, not good. Not good. And it's not like it's a Pacific Division team that you play twice a year. No. So you've
It's
got
like that Anaheim record where it was like the Leafs
yeah.
haven't won in
That
Anaheim
was
since like
yeah. Yeah. I think it was
was
there
it
was Calgary that had like went on a 20-year
the 20
streak.
year? Yeah. But it's
Yeah.
like you play them once a year. You and
Yeah.
it's in Calgary, so it's not like you're always losing to that one team. It's like if you could get the
Yeah.
wins at home, but you just can't win out west, it's like okay, but
Yeah.
like this is like you can't win anywhere. And
Yeah.
this is
So to
your like main one of your main division rivals.
yeah. So Stolar is there, like he's talking about he's like, oh, we should incorporate this maybe into like the Leaf system, whatever. I think it's not like a systems difference in like the technical sense between the two teams. I think it's like a belief system difference.
Yeah, like a
Like I think the
mentality.
sense it's a mentality. It's the Sens are just way more willing to throw shit at the net and go search down the puck and just kind of will their way to a goal. And it
Mhm.
just feels like sometimes the Leafs are dumping the puck because that's the Craig Berube system. And like just kind of going through the motions. I know this is not like I'm not pointing to a stat or anything. Like this is very
Yeah.
much just a feel and a vibe
That
observation.
that
But
type of
yeah,
vibe, that's the type of vibe I used to get from the Leafs, like in their first like couple of years. Like I remember them being a little bit more free and loose. And maybe this is like with the rookie inexperience with like the main guys. But I feel like in that first season, the second season, they had more of that instead of trying to find the perfect pass always. And they've always had instances of that, but it kind of felt like as the years have went on, they've they've been more of a deferral team rather than a shoot first
yeah.
type of team and see what happens.
It's like they're playing as if they're trying to get the system to get them the goal than the like winning the puck battle. And like you know who did a good job of actually not doing this is William Nylander on his goal where he protected the puck for like 10 to 15 seconds and made his own chance.
Yeah.
Tell you what, nothing the Craig Berube system says to do that. Like what he did on that play, starting in one corner, curling all the way around to near the blue line, and just beating a defender and going straight to the net. But like sometimes you need more of that, and it feels like that's kind of been farther and farther between those types of chances. Um, and yeah, now like our standings in the division are suffering for it. Let's see if things have updated since last night. But coming out of Saturday, we were in third place due to tiebreakers with the Lightning, and that's still the case here. So Panthers, we did have a favor done for us a couple games in a row here. They've lost two in a row, but they're 4 games up on both Tampa and Toronto with 85 points. However, both teams do have 2 games in hand. So we can't get too Debbie Downer because this race is like set to go basically the rest of the season as long as we don't get this losing streak into 4 or 5 games here. So where's
Well, I
kind of
mean,
your yeah,
I would say they're in a like not a streak, but like, dude, they've only won one. They've won one in their
yeah,
last six,
yeah,
and they haven't won a regulation game since before then either. Like the one
yeah,
win came in a shootout where they blew, was it a 3-0 lead to Utah? And then they
yeah,
somehow managed to stay afloat for the third period and take
yeah.
it to shootout and win. Like, okay,
I want to kind of lay out the argument for like both sides here. So it's the what's like the do you want to start glass half full or glass half empty?
well, let's just do glass half empty because
Okay.
it kind of feels like we could just pile on a little bit and then we'll
Yeah.
be a little bit
Yeah,
more
okay.
optimist.
I gotta pull up here as well the stats for the Leafs at this point in the season
Last year.
last year versus this year. I've seen people kind of talking about the goal differential, right? That's a big one. I think around this time last year we were like plus 40, and I think right now we're under plus 10. And there's a big difference between us and teams like Tampa and Florida. And you look at that difference, a lot of it comes from the goals for category. I think at this point in the season, Leafs had already broke the 300 goal mark. We're
Hmm.
not at that point right now. However, we haven't allowed 200 goals yet. And at this point in the season, last year, the Leafs had done that by, I want to say like 30 or 40 goals into the 200. So this is the thing, though, is how much of that like goals against difference is a factor of the defense having gotten better. Because if you look at it on paper, 100% has versus the goalies.
I would say, well, I mean, take one look at who was starting last year. A big lion share of the games was Ilya Samsonov at
Yeah.
the beginning, right? And then when he lost his head, and then he came back and he had a very good stretch. I remember, right?
But then
But
remember, Joe Woll came back and he wasn't good. He played those 2 games against Boston, and we were like, uh-oh, like what's
yeah,
going on here? He didn't get to
yeah,
start that playoffs because down the stretch he never got it back. I think if you look at that and you want to take the glass half full approach, it's that the Leafs are not scoring even close as much as they have historically. And B, you can make the argument that some of the defensive numbers, just in terms of raw goals score, like goals against, that has come down due to the goalies being better than anything you've done defensively to improve your system. And I think I've like right now I'm seeing that more than ever. It's like a couple of the Sens goals, the Sanderson one, and who scored? I'm check who else scored in the first period, but there was a couple goals that
um, wasn't Greg because Greg scored the winner.
no, but
Um,
anyways, there was a couple goals that were a result to me of like getting head in your own zone, like having
yeah,
opportunities to clear the puck or just
and,
not getting to the point. Yeah,
and they've
David
done a
Perron.
much and they've done a better job of that than years past because there'd be times I remember like a few years ago when it was like uh it would have been like at the in the early ends of like the Matthews era, like Nikita Zaitsev would be out there with like Morgan
Oh
Riley, and my
yeah,
God, it was
yeah,
like you like the
yeah.
puck would not be able, like, if they weren't in the offensive zone, like the two of them, and it was in the defensive zone, good luck trying to get it out. It was
Yeah.
quite literally a fire drill,
You
like
could see
after
the
fire
goal
drill.
before it came, right? That's
100%.
what it was. You would see the goal
And
before it actually went in.
who kept them afloat for a lot of those years was on the back of Freddie Anderson. Now we can go into like Freddie Anderson in the playoffs. Maybe he wasn't up to his standard. His body started to wear down on him by his end. But man, in the regular season, does he not still hold the the single season wins record for the Leafs now?
It's either him or I honestly Soupy might have. I can't remember if Soupy
I
ended
don't
up
know if
beating it.
I don't think Soupy would have been able to play enough games because like
Anyways,
all the seasons were
yeah,
shortened. But like,
yeah,
dude,
yeah,
Freddie was unbelievable during the regular season on
yeah.
the backs of some pretty awful defense, and like he was able to keep them afloat. And this year, it kind of not to that extent because I
Yeah,
still
I
think we
don't even want
fundament
to say it's on the whole year. Like to me, it's even just like what we've seen. maybe like even if you say since coming back from Four Nations, but even then we rattled off like we had a 5 game win streak after, or like
Yeah,
from the games before and after Four
sure.
Nations. I just
But
think it's as of late I've noticed more defensive breakdowns, and defensive breakdowns doesn't even have to be just like the defense. Like the forwards are in the defensive zone too. It comes down
yeah,
to that as well. It just feels like we've been getting hemmed in a little bit more. Um, and yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing. That's the glass half empty. Okay. Glass half full. You want to know when the Leafs had really bad analytics after a trade deadline? It was 2022-23 after adding 6 guys to the roster. The Leafs analytics had never been worse. If people were talking about this team actually might have got worse after the deadline, after we added Ryan O'Reilly,
we're
Noel
not winning
Acciari.
another playoff round. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what some of the talk was in terms of just looking at the underlying numbers after our trade deadline. Like, are the team that year didn't like they didn't look the part. It wasn't like a very aesthetically pleasing style. And then all of a sudden things look pretty damn good in the playoffs. So this isn't the end all be all like what you're seeing right now, even if the underlying numbers end up looking not great on the season. This has happened before. You have better goaltending than you had that year. You should hopefully get performances like we got out of Ilya Samsonov standing on his head. Like that's kind of the bar this time. That was
Yeah,
that was almost a surprise in that series against Tampa. We're almost expecting that this year, right? So
yeah, 100%.
I don't think it's like sky is falling time yet. I think the fact that Matthews isn't his full self definitely plays a part because that wasn't the case that year. Um,
Or any
so
year, honestly.
yeah, yes,
Like
yeah. So
that's got to be the biggest detractors. You're losing at this point that Matthews had must have had at least like 45 to 50 goals. If he finished with 69, he was probably past 50, I think, at this point last year.
yeah, well, but I'll tell you too. Like last year actually ended on a sour note going into the
Yeah,
playoffs
it did. Yeah, that's right.
because he didn't get to 70.
And they
Mitch
lost
Marner
back.
didn't get to 100.
They lost both of their last two games to
Yeah,
Florida and
yeah,
Tampa, and they were like not like gutsy losses either. Like they
yeah.
kind of rolled
So
over in both of those games. I do
Matthews doesn't
remember
get to
that.
70. Yeah, and Mitch doesn't get to 100. And I keep bringing this up because to me it's actually underrated but important. Is William Nylander didn't break the Swedish goal record for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He was on
For
40 goals for the second year in a row,
2 years in a row.
right?
Yeah,
What's he at right now?
100%.
37, 38. My God, he better freaking do it this year, right?
But
So,
even last year too, he was stuck at like I remember if it was like 34, 35, and he was stuck
yeah.
on it for weeks at a time. And there
Oh,
was
yeah.
a stretch over the past couple of weeks now, like okay, you lose 5 of 6, and even before the break, and Willie wasn't playing at his Willie self, let's say, right? Like he'll have those stretches. Everybody is not immune to
Yeah.
going through stretches, but to my point before, like you bring up the goal record, like dude, they're missing 30 plus goals from and a lot of those like 5-on-5 goals. Like that's your best five
Yeah.
on five goal scorer.
You're honestly so right, though, Dave, because, yeah, I know if you want to give that stat, because I were you getting to that stat?
I
It's
don't
five.
have the stat in front of me, but like
And the stat is damning because okay, yeah, you know what? It ends up the stat ends up getting like the teensiest bit nicer. But he's got coming into that Ottawa game. Let's just do it this way. One 5-on-5 goal in his last 16 games. That's thanks to Mike DiStefano. And now it's 2-17 after the Olmark yeah,
it's not
oopsie.
great.
No, it's not great at all. And but you're so right to bring that up, Dave, because I talked about the goal difference between this year and last year. You add 20 goals to Matthews total, and we
It,
literally look at it, it's totally
it's
different,
respectable.
right? And
It's
that's
a
one
respectable
player.
number.
And
Yeah.
that's one player. Mando's got a note about the goaltending before we move on. What you got, Mando?
You know what? My fire alarm's going off, so you boys just continue. We'll throw this question at you in about 10
Okay,
seconds.
All
sounds
right.
good, brother.
No
Um,
problem.
the last thing I want to get to is just Lawton and Carlo. Four
Mhm.
games now. I still basically have zero notes on Scott Lawton. He
I
barely,
do have
yeah,
some I
okay,
have some notes on Scott Lawton. Um he's had a probably one of the most like the toughest stretches in terms of like deadline acquisitions I think I've ever seen. Like I'm gonna go back to the beginning of the Matthews, Marner, Nylander era.
I should
Bad
maybe get to
ones,
these
Thomas
stats then.
Plekanec. Oh,
I
you
have
have
these
some? Okay.
stats. I
Because
actually have,
my
yeah.
guess is Thomas Plekanec was the only one that maybe had like a tougher time. And I would say even then he wasn't really, was he brought in as like
He was a
goals?
deadline guy. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was.
but I'm saying like he's done for
I would say
what he was
actually I'd say
brought
it's a
in
pretty good
for.
comparison. He came in as a 3C. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
say so. Okay, we'll do
Okay, give
this
it to
now
me.
because
Give me the stats.
this is multi-layered. So this first popped up on the Leafs Reddit. I don't have who the user was who threw this together, but I then took it to another level. But I'll start with what they put out there. So this is stats before being acquired by Toronto, forwards only. So additions by the Maple Leafs and their stats before being traded for. Do you know who's had the most points in their season coming to the Leafs before landing in Toronto? So I'll give you the names here. This is every forward acquisition in midseason by the Leafs. Boyle, Plekanec, Nick Patan, Kyle Clifford, Dennis Malgin, Galchenyuk, Riley Nash, Nick Foligno, Colin Blackwell, Ryan O'Reilly, Nola Chari, Sam Lafferty, Connor Dewar, and Scott Lawton. Who of those names has recorded the most points before getting traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs?
So my original guess was going to be Nick Foligno.
Yeah.
My heart then went to Ryan O'Reilly, but I think you're gonna throw one back in my face, and it's Scott Lawton. So I just gave you three
I'm gonna give you
names.
the top. It's okay. I'm gonna give you the top three.
Okay,
That's
go.
what I want to do here. So, third, Brian Boyle with 22
Really?
points in 54 games. Second,
Huh.
Thomas Plekanec with 24 points in 60 games. And first, Scott Lawton has the most points before coming over to the Toronto Maple Leafs with 27 points is what he had before he got traded here.
Ryan O'Reilly didn't
That's
have more than
Ryan
22
O'Reilly.
points
He
at
had
that time.
19 points in 40 games. So if you
Uh,
want to go by points per game, Ryan O'Reilly did lead at
I
0.48.
I do
Yes.
remember the talk of that trade being that he
He was
was
having a really down year.
injured. Yeah,
Yes.
but he got hurt that year too, and they
No,
were
you're
like,
right.
hopefully his body can hold up and
It was
stuff.
his hand.
It was. Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
right. It was his hand. That's right.
And then he re-injured it with
Okay.
Toronto, had to wear something there. So
The finger guard. Yeah, I remember
yeah, but
that.
even if you go by points per game,
Yeah.
Lawton is second. Like he's just behind Ryan O'Reilly. So let's now look at regular season stats after being acquired by Toronto. Okay, so
Okay.
same names here. Uh, you want to take a guess?
Who has the most points?
Who's on the podium for most points after being acquired for the Maple Leafs in the middle of the season? Forwards only.
My guess has to be Ryan O'Reilly just because I could remember him scoring goals. I would say honestly, dude, like maybe like Noel Chari's got to be up there because I remember him having
Yeah.
a flash there. Ooh, Brian Boyle didn't do too much. I
No,
remember I could
Brian
do
Boyle
this.
actually never scored a goal as a Toronto
He
Maple
did
Leaf.
score a goal.
So
I would say Plekanec maybe had one in the regular season. Am I like would I be right
he
there?
actually didn't. No,
He didn't
no.
even score.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm
So
okay.
yeah,
My guess. I know Nick Foligno didn't, or maybe he scored one. I like okay. I guess Ryan
yeah.
O'Reilly.
Let me give this to you here. Okay. I'm gonna give you some other ones as well. Like so, like Boyle had 3 points in 21 games in the regular season. Like yikes, right? 3 assists. Plekanec 2 assists in 17
Yeah,
games.
yeah.
What are some other interesting ones here? Okay, so I'm just gonna give you here's third place. Sam Lafferty had 6 points in 19 games.
Hey, he was
Ryan
good.
O'Reilly had 11 points in 13. So he's the points per game leader. Like
Yeah.
he had a really good little run there. The guy with the most points in the regular season after being traded for by the Toronto Maple Leafs is Alex Galchenyuk. He had 12
Oh,
points, 12 points in 26 games that year. So the points per
oh,
game number isn't as high. It's 0.46, which gets him to third in that mark.
yeah.
Second is Foligno, who had 4 points in 7 games. Ryan O'Reilly by far 0.85 points per game. he'd be the leader in this. Scott Laughton, obviously, at this point, had 0 points in 4 games.
Yeah.
Now, this is another last one here. Playoff stats after being acquired by Toronto. Okay.
I don't even want to know
I'm just
these.
gonna,
Like,
yeah,
it's gonna make me
I'm
feel
just gonna get
so
right into it. I'm not
bad.
gonna make you guess here. I'm just
Brian
gonna run
Boyle's
through.
definitely got to be up there because he had like
I'm
2
gonna,
assists in that playoff series.
I'll run through a bunch of the names just because I
Yeah,
think it's
go.
interesting. Yeah, Brian Boyle did have 2 assists in the 6 game series against the Caps. Thomas Buchanan 4 points in 7 games after stepping up for Nazem Kadri as the 2C. Remember that? 2 goals for Buchanan. He stepped up on
That's
that line
right.
with Marner. Um, Nick
Because he
Buchanan never
can't.
played a playoff game. Yeah, sorry.
Nas got knocked out of the playoffs, like, or
Yeah, he got
suspended
suspended,
from the.
right? Yeah,
That was after the first game, so he had 6 games of playing 2C,
ex
right? Or
exactly.
5 games
Yeah,
at least, maybe.
something
I don't
like that.
know.
Like he,
Something
yeah,
like
he had
that.
to,
Yeah, yeah,
he stepped up big there.
he did. I
Nick
do
Buchanan
remember
never
that.
played a
Okay.
playoff game. Kyle Clifford 5 games, no points. Dennis Malgin never played a playoff game. Alex Galchenyuk in 6 playoff games against the Montreal Canadiens had 4 points.
Yeah. No, he was,
Yeah,
and
but
he was very good. But
until
what
he
do we
wasn't.
remember him for
Exactly.
until he gives up the puck? Yeah.
Exactly. Riley Nash, no points in two
No
games.
points.
Nick
Yeah.
Foligno, 1 assist in 4 games. Colin Blackwell, 2 points in 7 games. Ryan O'Reilly with 9 points in 11 games. Nola Charlie with 2 goals in 11. Sam Lafferty with 3 points in 9. Connor Dewar with 1 assist in 6. Scott Laughton, we'll see what happens there. So my takeaways from this exercise is that Ryan O'Reilly is by far the best Leafs forward acquisition they've made in the Matthews era. Like there's no doubting it. But you can make an argument that Alex Galchenyuk is number 2, and that's horrifying. That's
Yeah.
disgusting. That is awful.
In eight
Like I
years, dude. Like
in 8 years. I could
that's
not believe
awful.
reading that list, um, how high up Galchenyuk ranks on these things. Like he has the second most playoff points for the Maple Leafs by an acquisition, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's first in regular season points after being traded for. Like he is legitimately the number 2 acquisition. All of that exercise to make the point that like Scott Laughton's got to step up here and make sure he's a lot higher on that list than some of those guys, right? Like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
better than a lot of those names. And I still got faith, like I said before the deadline, like he's one of my favorite depth guys that you can have. I just yeah, I it's been to steal a line from Sheldon Keefe, it's been very vanilla right now. It's been
Yeah.
vanilla. I barely noticed him in that Sens game outside of the fight
The fight.
and taking a stick to his face, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
And I noticed him in the Panthers game for all the wrong reasons. Like I
and that was
messaged,
the same case in his debut.
yeah, I messaged the chat right away. I'm like, dude, Scott Laughton on the penalty kill, which is a place where they want to depend on him. He looks totally out of sorts. Like I completely understand the change of system and whatever,
I
but
do
I'm
think
like,
that's what it is. I do think it is the change of system
oh,
because
100%. But
yeah,
brother, I'm watching like there's the play at the line. This was the Sam Bennett power play goal. I think that was his first of the night. Um, he loses the clearing the puck at the line. Somehow it stays in. Like I had to rewatch the play to be like, how the heck did that puck not cross the line? And right from there, you just start to see all the little mistakes. So he loses his man, then he kind of loses his marking in the box, and he starts to come in a little bit more, and he loses the shot shape of the box. That leaves like Sam Bennett wide open in the slot, and it's like it's one of the easiest powerful, like one of the
you
easiest
can
goals
copy
for Sam
paste
Bennett
that.
too.
Yeah, you can copy paste that for the Nathan McKinnon goal in the first
A
game,
hundred
right?
percent. It
So
looked carbon copy, and I'm just like I'm sitting there and I'm like, listen, I want to have the trust. I want them to trust Scott Laughton, but I don't know if he can trust himself currently right now. And
yeah,
maybe just give him a little bit of
I
time to acclimate.
I still have like full faith in him. Like he's a guy who I would want him to work out more than most guys that we've added, like the list we mentioned there. I want him to figure it out more than I'd even want like Max Domi to figure it out on the whole. Like that's how much I like Scott Laughton. Um, so I'm gonna stick by the dude. But so far, pretty vanilla. Real quick on
Yeah,
Brandon Carlo, pretty good,
I
I would
like
say.
him.
Pretty
Yeah,
good.
you know
He
that.
lots of goals against. He's been on the ice for a lot, but
Yeah,
if you watch him in between the whistles in stretches of play where there isn't many goals on either side of the puck, and you just watch like his breakouts and you watch how he gets into the corner and wins a puck battle, like I like it. I like. I like.
I did see a stat. I don't. I saw a tweet about a stat. I don't have it in front of me, so don't quote me on it. But I think he's averaged at least 60% expected goals for share.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, he's averaged that across his what is it, 4 or 5
4 Leaf
games
games.
now,
Yeah.
4 Leaf
4 games.
games. So I mean, very small sample size, but also encouraging because if you're playing alongside Morgan Riley, at some point I have to like stuff has to break your way. If you're trending in that
Yeah.
direction, I just hope it starts to break for you quicker, I guess you could say.
I actually
Because
thought I was gonna break for him at the end of that Sens game. He had a shift where he put 2 shots towards the net. Neither one actually got to the goal. But
that's that's
he was
fine.
trying. He was
You
trying,
if
man.
you that's I'll be honest, I would much rather right now at this point just trying stuff and instead of like as much as I
Without
would like to see a
hesitation too, though. Like remember how
yeah.
Troy TJ Brody, not Troy Bodie, also a Leaf,
Oh God.
back in the day. Yeah, exactly. TJ Brody used to be like half pregnant on his shot
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah.
Like he wouldn't decide to shoot the
It's a
puck until the
crazy way to
guy was.
describe it, but yeah.
I swear this
Oh
is a
yeah.
saying. You know what's funny is I used this saying yesterday with a buddy, and he was like, "I've never heard that before." I'm like, "Dude, I swear this is a saying." I'm gonna
It
have to
could
have
be. I have
Mando weigh
no
in after.
clue.
I swear. Anyways, like TJ Brody would decide to shoot the puck when a guy's shin pad is like
In front of
one
him.
foot away from him, right?
Yeah.
And at that point, the puck isn't going anywhere. And I've noticed from Brandon Carlo in the tiny bit of time he's been here, he's at least more decisive with it. He makes up his mind, and there's a bit of zip behind the shot. Like
Yeah.
he can put a puck on
He
net that actually
he
has
kind of
a chance to get in.
in terms of like offense, he kind of reminds me more of like Jake McCabe because Jake McCabe was the exact same
Yeah,
way. And
yes,
we came
I used to
on,
be really mad about. Oh my God.
we used to say that right from the
Oh,
beginning. We're like the one difference you could tell at least between the two players is offensively, at least Jake McCabe knows what he wants to do when he gets the puck
he's
on his
also
stick.
gotten a lot. He's gotten a lot better at it now,
Yeah,
McCabe. Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
But listen, if you try to fire 10 pucks on the net and
yeah,
3 of them go through, there's a very, very high chance with the type of talent you have in front of
yeah,
you, something is going to break for you
yeah,
at some point. But
yeah. We've gone
I
really
think,
long here on the Leafs. I
yeah,
do have one more pointer after the break, and I'll tease it. It has to do with a conversation that I had with some fans at the Saturday Leaf game, and it goes
yeah,
into our next topic. So
no
yeah,
problem. We'll talk to you on the flip side then. And we are back. We've got producer Mando back on. Doesn't seem like his fire alarm is going off anymore.
No.
Producer Mando, you did have a quick goaltending stat for us. What do you got?
I actually have a question, but before I get there, you brought up something that I'd looked up yesterday, and it's a bit of a handpicked stat. It's more on the acquisitions at the trade deadline, specifically for this year, and it relates more to Scott Lawton. I know they're handpicked stats, they're handpicked like notes, so we have to take them with a grain of salt. But it's from Drew Livingstone on X. Significant centers traded at the NHL trade deadline and teams' performances since. So it's looking at some of these centers, some of the bigger names that were traded and those teams' records since they've been traded. So Colorado with Brock Nelson, 4-0-1. Ottawa with Dylan Cousins, 5-0-0. And then you look at Carolina with Jankowski and Stankoven. I don't know if that's significant, but either way, they are 4-0-0.
Mark
Okay.
Jankowski. I don't know if you guys know about Mark Jankowski, but he's got 4 goals already as a Carolina Hurricane on 4 shots.
Yes.
He is
Sounds
the
like
first
that's
NHL.
ridiculous.
He's the first NHL player ever to have 4 goals on 4 shots with his new team.
This guy's
Like
That's
shooting
very nice.
100% right now.
he's literally shooting
Who's this?
100%. He's already
Michael
got more
Jordan?
goals. He's got more
Yeah.
goals than Mikko Rantanen already. But
That's
man, to your
ridiculous.
point
That's
about what you brought up,
unbelievable.
I know we didn't bring up the stat for Mark Jankowski talk, but I
No, that's crazy.
yeah, I don't like how much are we going to attribute to Scott Lawton so far versus like if it feels like a full team thing right now. We're kind of
Yes.
all going through it, but and I think Colorado's been rolling even before the deadline. It's just something's off right now. So like just the emotional consistency in the games is what I'd say is the biggest thing that's off. You get what I was saying before, Mando, but like even with the fights and the big hits, like those feel isolated from the rest of the game.
Yeah,
They
they
don't
do.
bleed together, right? So I
Hmm.
don't know. I don't know what the fix is. I think it's like just an internal thing. They just have to figure out what their kind of rallying point is and just
They need new
yeah, I don't
hearts, I
know.
guess. I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
And it doesn't help that we get like a lot of like flat play on the ice, but we also get a lot of flat quotes from Berube. We actually got a good one out of that Sens game, saying like they got to decide in the dressing room if they want to show up to start games. Like we need maybe a little bit more of that, and maybe he's only given that behind the doors, which is fine. But I mean, yeah, when it's flat quote after flat quote, we're going to question you and just
Hmm.
question just the emotion of the room.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, big stat there, man. Though huge, yeah. And then you had the
Yeah, and
question.
then no, yeah, the question it's more just on the goaltending because as you mentioned in the
Yeah,
glass half full, like we've seen some pretty successful goaltending. There's been blips, but really every team has had blips for the most part. Both goaltenders in Stolarz and Woll are either approaching or are far ahead of their career starts. So I'm just looking at Stolarz. He's played 26 games this year. His career high is 28 in Anaheim, 21, 22, and then last year in Florida he played 27. And Joseph Woll is already at 34. His previous career high in starts was 25, or games played was 25 last year. And obviously, we've seen him split time. So, not a lot of wear and tear per se. Woll is showing a little bit more signs of fatigue, I would say, than Stolarz is. It hasn't been Stolarz' fault that the Leafs are in the position they're in. But I just wonder if we are concerned about seeing some tread on the tires come playoff time and if it makes more sense to ride one guy or if we should see these tandems just to kind of keep some of the fatigue out of the dressing room. So I'll just leave that with you guys to kind of maybe discuss quick and I'll jump off and see you behind the scenes here.
No problem.
absolutely.
Um, I I'm more worried about fatigue maybe on Joseph Wall's part just because he's younger. I was gonna say he's never done it before. Neither has Anthony Stolarz, I guess,
And the thing with
to that
Stolarz too
point.
is he has the injury history, but he has specific injury history with his knee.
Yeah.
Wall has injury history of all
With
kinds.
everything. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Um,
it's
I
almost
don't
like
know.
I don't even know if you can ride one goalie the rest of the way here because of like those concerns. Not even that just they haven't done it before, but because of the health stuff, right?
If
So
you like on this, like, okay, just on a hypothetical on this week. Tonight you have a game against the Calgary Flames. Wednesday it's the Avs. Thursday it's
Thursday's the
the second
Rangers.
half of a back-to-back in with travel against the Rangers. And then Saturday you're in Nashville. How many games does Wall start? My guess is one. Does he play the second half of the back-to-back or one of the back-to-back games? Does Stolarz get the three or do you split it two
I,
and
I
two?
I honestly would not be opposed to Wall getting a start tonight.
I
I wouldn't. Coming off of two
I
games
do
in a row
too.
that you've lost against the team that you should come out on top against, I wouldn't be opposed. I wouldn't be opposed to going 2-2 here. The Leafs played or in the midst of playing 15 games in 30 days of March, right? That's their
Yeah.
schedule here in the month. So a game every other day. Um, I'm fine with splitting this week. At the same time, though, when you get to the playoffs, you're playing a game every other day. So if you're riding one goalie, like they have to be prepared for that. So I don't even know if there's a right answer. We kind of saw what it looks like when you split the playoff duties in that with Swayman and Omar.
Boston. Yep.
Some people like it, some people don't, right? We criticized it last year, and it ended up being the right choice to just go with Swayman.
I think
Um,
the only people that have to like it are your goaltenders.
and I
Everybody
think
else
those
can kind
guys,
of kick rocks.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like they
I
both
don't
have to
think
be
those
on
guys
board.
would have a problem with it. I almost look at it's like I think right now like you're leaning game one Stolarz. You win that game, you're going back with Stolarz. You lose that game, you know what? Even
You
then, like
thinking
it
at the
totally depends what
switch.
happens. Like I can't. It's really tough to even think about right now. But I like at the end of the day, this is the best spot the Leafs have been in goaltending wise. Health concerns are not in the Matthews era, right? So we got to look at it as a strength and maybe like we'll take the adversity as it comes in the playoffs, right? So far so good, but yeah, no, it's like an impossible question to answer right now. It's really tough for anybody. Like they don't have an answer, I don't think, in the Leafs dressing room, so that tells you everything.
For sure.
Gonna move on to last thing I wanted to bring up related to Leafs goes into our last topic here. So, I'm at the Leaf game. We're in the hundreds. Shout out my aunt for blessing us with some tickets. Um, and we're sitting, Dave. You know, like when the flags come out for the anthem, right? So
Oh, you
I'm
got
on the
really good
side.
seats.
I'm on the side with the Leaf flag, right?
Okay.
So that's where we're sitting, and I've got this one guy like a row ahead of us who looks like the splitting image of Eric Stahl. Like this dude could have been Eric Stahl, and I would have just not known, right? I don't know what Eric Stahl would have been doing at the Leaf game instead of Thunder Bay or Carolina or
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
so we got that guy, and then to the right of us, we've got a group of guys who say they're like one of the dudes that was there is part of the Sens ownership group.
Oh,
So
nice.
we got this going on,
Crazy.
and then there's just some fans behind us. There was like some decent chatters throughout the game, talking about just this play, that play, and then they start talking about Marner, and they're like, "Well, Mitch Marner goes like, you know who's a free agent? That Sam Bennett guy looks pretty good. He'd be a pretty good free agent, huh? I wouldn't feel too bad if we got Sam Bennett." And so that's our next topic here. So we were doing the
I
Sam Bennett
I,
talk before we
I
even knew
did
that it was
have
on
a
headlines.
I did have a quick stat for you though.
Okay.
Sorry,
Oh yeah, that's
sorry to
right. No,
bring
no,
this
no,
up.
that's right. Let's go. Let's hear it.
Um, so we did mention trade deadline acquisitions to
Yeah.
the Leafs. You
Yes.
want to hear some
Yes.
fun, like quick rapid fire stats about people that they've traded away? So I'm going to
Oh God.
focus in on three: Fraser Minton, Connor Dewar, Connor Timmins.
Uh
Okay.
yeah, I already know
Uh,
some of these. My God.
so Connor Timmins, in 51 games this year with the Leafs, which is crazy that he played that amount. To me, he had 2 goals, six assists for 8 points. Right now with the Penguins, he has a goal, 2 assists, 3 points. Okay, cool. Connor Dewar, he's got in 31 games this year with the Leafs, he only had 3 assists. I think in his Leaf tenure, that's 48 regular season games. He's got 1 goal during that stretch. So far with the Pittsburgh Penguins, he's got 3 goals in 4 games. All right, cool. That's
Couple
two
of
NHL
Connors.
players, couple of Connors. Now, Fraser Minton traded to the Bruins in the Brandon Carlo deal. So he had 6 goals, 13 points with the Marlies in 26 games. With the Providence Bruins last night, he scored a hat trick. So he got 3 goals, 1 assist
Natty
for four
Hattie, I believe.
points. Natty Hattie, 4 points,
Yeah.
3 games for him. So he's over a point a game. It's just like a little bit of compounding misery there. And that's all I want to say.
Little bit of salt.
I don't even
Little bit.
want to give a take here. I'm just going to leave you with that stat. You make up your mind with whatever you want to do.
Leafs were due for a diabolical trade with the Bruins where we give away the future down the
The
middle or
future
something. Like
captain, yeah.
it's just
That's the future
Tyler
captain of the
Seguin,
team.
Dougie Hamilton, right? Like
Tuukka
Andrew
Rask, yeah,
Raycroft, like actually not Andrew
yeah,
Raycroft, dear God, Tuukka Rask, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So Sam,
Nice. So Sam Bennett.
let's talk about another person that tortures
Yeah,
the Leafs.
let's just keep digging the wound here. Brought up on headlines by Elliot Friedman that they're restarting negotiations on a contract between Florida Panthers and Sam Bennett. Fried said he's not ready to make a lean one way or another, whether it happens or not. But yeah, that's kind of all the info we got. But a lot of people love to connect dots or whatever and talk about Sam Bennett as like a replacement if we don't re-sign Mitch Marner. And it's kind of crazy talk to me. Like, listen, Sam Bennett's really good. If we lose Mitch Marner, I don't think Sam Bennett's going to make me feel whole again. Like, I don't know. That's the first thing I want to
probably
say.
gonna make everybody feel worse. Like, let me give you some Sam Bennett stats here. This year, he's got 22 goals in 45 games so far. Sorry, 22 goals and 45 points in 66 games.
Okay.
45 points is 5 points short of it, 5 points short of his career high, which simultaneously came in the first full season he was with the Florida Panthers after his trade in 2020 21. So his first full year, he signs a 4-year deal, which he's currently in his last year of. So he's signed a 4 by 4.425. Sam Bennett's got a career high of 28 goals, 49 points in 71 games, which he got in that first year with Florida. But since then, 16 goals, 40 points, 20 goals, 41 points in the years before, and this year, 22 goals, 45 points. So just in terms of pure points and goal scoring and that stuff, you are definitely losing a step because Mitch Marner is like quite literally in the
He's
top
almost double that.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah, for just assists
Yeah.
alone, he's in the top 5 in the league currently, maybe top 3. I know at one point he was like in the top 5. So in terms of total points, what everybody wants to like we know how Sam Bennett plays. Sam Bennett plays in that very like in your face style. He's the I said this last episode. He's the guy that punches you in the mouth and then smiles in your face after he does it. He's in the same ilk as like a Brad Marchand, right? Um, does bringing Sam Bennett to Toronto at what I would only assume if he's at 4.41 million and for what he brings to the table, and he's a Stanley Cup winner, potentially back to back. Who knows what happens the rest of this year? He's been to 2 cup finals already now in a row.
He's got a Four
What type of
Nations win.
4 Nations win too? He's got a goal in that final. Like, okay, what type of
To be that,
money? What type
yeah.
of money is he looking at? Like, that's the
So,
question.
and that is the question. And like, let me give you some answers here. It's from AFP Analytics. They do some contract projections every year. No one's ever 100% accurate, but there's a lot of stuff that I look at and I think that makes sense. They have Sam Bennett right now. This was last updated on January 31st. So listen, that's a month ago. That was before Four Nations. So this is not fully up to date, but they've got Sam Bennett signing a 6-year deal at 6.3 million. Even then, I'd actually say that's a little bit low.
That's
I
very
kind
low.
of think I think he's getting more. I think we're talking like 7.5.
7.5. Yep.
So, I did a lot of contract talk last last episode about the Leafs. Like they quite legitimately like the peak thing that this team can do is just kind of run it back next year. Like if you get Mitch Marner at 13.25, JT at 7, and Matthew Knies on a bridge deal at 4.5 or 5 million, you have like 2 million left over to still fill 2 forward spots. So the best you can do is run it back with this roster. You legitimately cannot add to the same group. So the only way you get a Sam Bennett is with subtracting some of those pieces. Matthew Knies, you're not subtracting. He's an RFA. He's going to get extended, whether that's long term or on a bridge deal.
And he's
I think it's
also
a bridge deal.
22 years
Yeah, like
old. Like
like he's
you
not.
don't
So
get rid
that's
of
not
that.
happening. Mitch Marner is a maybe, but you don't want to subtract him. JT is probably like the most likely one, but as I just like outlined there, if JT you're already squeezing in to get at 7 million, which you can make an argument might be a bargain, like he actually has a case to be made to get more than that. Like Stamkos signed for 8 times 4. Joe Pavelski signed for 7 times 3 in 2019 with the Stars. Like he can go and ask for 8 million and he'd be well within his rights. So you can already just squeeze John Tavares in. Like Sam Bennett, who knows what he's asking for on an open market where he's not going to Florida, the tax-free state, and can get a little bit less. Like I just, and then even Sam Bennett to JT, like yeah, it's still a move for the future too. Sam Bennett's 29 years old. Like that, maybe that straight swap makes you feel good. But here's the kicker now. Let's go look at the Florida Panthers and their cap situation because basically I think they're going to keep him. They really do not have a lot going on. Like they have a very good cap scenario here. I'm just pulling it up here as well, but put it to you this way. I believe they have like 17 million and they have 3 names to sign. Aaron Ekblad, who going to get suspension right now, doesn't count against your cap right now. But Aaron Ekblad, Sam Bennett, and Brad Marchand, they don't really have other UFAs. So I don't really see how he even gets to July 1. I'm surprised honestly, that he hasn't been signed. Yeah, I'm just pulling it up here. This is quite literally how the list goes. In terms of point totals by UFAs from the Florida Panthers, Brian Marchand is the leader with 47 points. Sam Bennett with 45, Aaron Ekblad with 33. You're then looking at guys in the AHL. The next guy is Nate Schmidt. Like Schmidt is the number 4 free agent in terms of signing priority for the Florida Panthers. Let me go look at RFAs here because I really don't think there's anyone coming up.
Just Maki Semiskevich.
So
and that's it.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
I have the number here. They have 19 million in cap space this summer. Sam Bennett's not getting the free agency, if you ask me. Like
they're legitimately they're adding.
Like, dude, they could like Brad Marchand takes up this like he's an addition here. He wasn't always in the cap picture.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think people shouldn't hold their breath for Sam Bennett. That's all.
No, 100%. I mean, even still, I still even think like we said 7.5. I think he'll take 7 flat. He might take 6.5 just to say like,
Florida,
hey,
yeah.
I'm here long term. It's tax free, like whatever you said. But if the Leafs did want to say pursue him, he's not coming here for less than 8.5.
Yeah, I think like I would say 8 flat. I think like you can maybe like let's give him a 500K putt because good old Toronto boy.
I don't even think why would he? Because nobody else has.
You know what it is? It's in my head. I'm saying why hasn't he signed already? It's just weird.
It is weird.
Maybe his number is really high. Maybe his number is really high.
You know what it is? If I'm Sam Bennett, you won a cup. You were like not I wouldn't say MVP.
He has no reason to leave, man. No reason. None.
He might
They resuscitated his career.
Yeah, he might genuinely like just take this extra thing and just be like, hey, listen, I did you guys a favor, cup plus final plus whatever happens this year. I'm a nice boy.
Yeah.
Can you just kick in a couple extra I know that just completely went against from what I originally just said about him, but I'm like, and if they win another cup and they go back to back and he's like, can I, instead of 6.5, can I actually have 7? Like, who's saying no? They're not.
Yeah. No, you're not. And last thing, you can choose, if you're Florida, you have to choose between Sam Bennett or Aaron Ekblad. Who are you resigning? It's actually a long conversation, and it might be Sam Bennett just because of Aaron Ekblad's lack of availability.
Yep. Well, just history in general. Now he's
contract,
missing.
Which
he's
contract
missing 20 more
ages
games.
Worse? Like if Aaron Ekblad is probably asking for the Morgan Riley contract, 7.5 million times 7.
It's currently what he's on right now. On 7.5.
So maybe he's asking for more
for 8.
So you can take that, or you can take the Sam Bennett deal. Like I'm probably signing the Sam Bennett in terms of which one ages. Maybe neither ages gracefully, but if I had to bet which one ages awfully,
better. Yeah.
I'd go.
Whichever.
Either way, however you want to frame it.
Cheese. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Let's move on. Let's do some time here with
during the past week. So on Saturday, Connor Bedard, he received his second 10-minute misconduct in a row. On Thursday, he received one as well against the Sharks for abuse of an official. On Saturday, what did they give him? What was the exact call that they gave him for?
It was a scrum behind the net. I don't even know what they ended up calling it as. I just watched the clip, and
so already big problem.
Yeah, like it wasn't like he. No. Listen, that's what I want to talk about here. Is both of these misconducts are very questionable. That first one, where it's him saying something to the ref, like, "I'm sorry," like you telling me the ref, like
they cut to him. They cut to him,
Yeah.
and he's like on the bench, and he's kind of like not. He looks nonverbal, like he's like on the bench, like stone face, and like not probably a couple thoughts behind the eyes, but like he looks emasculated basically. And then they call him for that. So whatever he must have said, he must have been in like autopilot for him to like say something so outlandish to the referees that that they had to kick him
Yeah.
out, right?
And then, dude, I'm
Uh,
telling you that 10-minute one on Saturday, like that one is just as bad. Like it is legitimately just the scrum behind the net. That is it. There was nothing to it. And I believe the context there is I think a couple guys got misconduct. So it was one of those like, okay, we need to get control of the game back. We're throwing a bunch of people out, whatever.
mm,
I I feel like Connor Bedard, rightfully or wrongfully, has earned some kind of reputation with the officials,
yes. So
right?
then also like when he's leaving the ice, I
Yeah,
think he
yeah, this
threw
is a
his
good one to bring up.
what did he threw his like helmet, he threw
I couldn't tell if
something.
it was a helmet or a towel. Like I couldn't tell what it was, but he
It
threw
looked
something
it
down
looked
the
pretty
hallway. You're
large. Like
right.
he like
Yeah.
overhand
And if
threw that
you're
thing.
right, if it was a towel, like he's not doing what you're like. Yeah, he goes and apologizes to like
Yeah.
the people in the hallway there, right? Like the
Look like the
ushers or
training
whoever that is,
staff and
right?
like the
Training
ushers,
staff.
yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
So I kind of think my takeaway from this is that Connor Bedard has earned a reputation, and in my opinion, it's a wrongfully attributed reputation. I almost like maybe this is like too far out there, but like it almost just feels like the refs are just like old heads who are just like, you get off my lawn, young whippersnapper, go back to where you like it feels really like out of touch that like
Yeah.
I don't know, like is he really
They don't like the golden boy.
yeah,
I kind of
yeah,
feel like I know McDavid kind of had the reputation of, but he used to get like Connor McDavid, like quite literally, especially come playoff time, he used to get like assaulted. Like I
yes.
and I've seen
And this is
Connor
the
Bedard
opposite here.
get
We're talking about oh okay. You're
I've
saying he
seen him get
does
but not to that extent. Like you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like he he somehow manages to avoid a lot of the
He's elusive.
abuse.
He's like Patrick Kane. Like how many times have you seen Mitch Marner get laid out?
Very few. Patrick
Bedard's kind of the
Kane,
same
same
way.
thing. Like
Yeah.
he'll get laid, and if he
Yeah.
gets laid out, like it kind of makes the news.
Yeah.
But even like after whistle stuff, like they'll get into scrums, but like I don't see Connor Bedard getting like cracked in the
I'm telling
back,
you.
basically. I don't
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
maybe he just doesn't draw that type of contact. Like Connor McDavid used to like just drive to the net and stay park in front of the net. He still does, and he'll get a couple cracks, but then he'll find a way to score, right? Maybe it's just like in terms of like the playing style, but like that doesn't give an excuse for like the referees. So like I don't know. Is it good that we're starting to see like we saw that emotion from him after the second suspension or the second misconduct, right? Like the fire, it's starting to like boil over. Is that good for him that he's like is he frustrated? Does that add to the fire? Like what do you kind of read off of that?
So my read is that I do actually like this. I like seeing this kind of fire from him. I almost kind of like seeing him as like a sore loser right now, right? He's a bit of a sore loser. He's got some piss and vinegar because I think he's frustrated to hell and back about his team. Um, I don't blame him for I like who doesn't like seeing him in that scrum on Saturday? Like I'd rather my star, especially my star who's a little bit smaller, like fight for himself there than see him kind of hide away out of
Get somebody else to
the
do his
scrum, like
fighting.
skate off to the bench. Like I like it. And Mando's got a note here says trying to compare it to the Crosby reputation, and I think that's actually like more along the lines of what we're seeing. For whatever reason, I think Connor Bedard has earned a reputation one way or another with the referees. That maybe he expects calls. Maybe it's just yeah, maybe it is the way he's been talking to the refs, but he has a reputation right now. Um, and I almost feel like the only way to shed it is to do what McDavid and Crosby did, which was win. Like I actually think that's the
Yeah,
only way you get back in the like I think as long as the Blackhawks are a loser team, he's
yeah.
gonna have this reputation. I think the way you get
Of being a loser. Yeah.
the respect back from the referees is you go and become a winning team. So and that's not easy. That's like without that's not totally within his control. Um,
Yeah, you
but
just hey,
that's
hey Connor, hey 20-year-old kid, change
yeah.
the fortunes of a whole
Have
franchise.
you
You ever
considered
considered that?
winning? brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You ever consider scoring a hat trick every night while getting
yeah.
three people mauling you like every time you touch the ice? Yeah. No, it
Here's the
is
other thing
very
too.
unfair.
I
Yeah.
don't think he had this reputation last year. I think this is a newly earned
No,
reputation.
but last year was more happy-go-lucky. Let's get the cameras in front
Yeah.
of this
Yeah.
borderline robot of let's say like Connor Bedard
He's
doesn't have the he's
I
got like
I
a
think he's fine. I think he's
yeah,
fine.
he's
I think
okay.
I
He's
like
whatever.
especially
He's better
when you
than the
compare
other
him to
Connor.
McDavid and Crosby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're doing the personality scale, I don't know which commercial do you like better? The one where McDavid's a chef or the one where Connor Bedard's a carpenter? You know what I'm talking
True.
about? You haven't
But which one do you like better? The Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews a Big Mac quarter pounder
uh
one, or do you
uh
want Connor Bedard
in
talking
the
about the
car
golden
driving
age
his
on the
yeah.
Enterprise one? The Enterprise one's really good. You know what? Yeah, okay.
It's great. It's
Connor Bedard
great.
wins. Sure.
We've solved
Okay,
it.
I'll
We've
give you that.
solved it.
But
Um
you definitely to your point, I 100%. I think I for lack of a better term, I think he just needs to shut up and play, honestly, which sucks. It does suck to say, but I think you're at the mercy of guys who think that they have too much power. Do you know how many times at the Leaf game on Thursday, the ref, and you could see this anytime that you watch, the ref just fake drops the puck, and I hate it. I hate that so much. Like, dude, we're not here to watch. Sorry, Wes. He probably wasn't at the game, but we're not here to watch Wes McCauley. Okay, we're here to watch the guys on the ice, and I hate
yeah.
it when they do
I
that.
just you just reminded me of Scott Laughton scores himself into the net and then gets absolutely like pile drive.
Yeah, in front of the
And the
refs.
ref is legitimately 2 feet away. When they played that replay in the arena, everyone was like, "Oh my god!"
Yes.
I know it's beside the point, but no, you're like, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Control what's within your control. Shut up, play the game, come back next year, and renew the friendships with the
Because
referees.
because
That's fair. That's fair.
the problem is that there is no way around it. Like for
There's
lack of a
nothing
better
Connor
term,
Bedard can do to the refs, while the refs can do everything to Connor Bedard.
for
Yeah,
lack of a better term,
Connor Bedard
he
cannot tell
has
the
to
ref to
be
go to the penalty box.
yes, yeah. For lack of a better term, Connor Bedard has to learn how to autograph sticks. He has to autograph pucks. You know what I mean?
See, but this is the thing, though, is I don't think Crosby or McDavid ever really learned that. I think they just started to win, and I think the refs kind of had to bend the knee, like to be like, "Oh, this guy's a winner. I'm gonna have
I
to
think
call it.
I
Like,
think
I
I think
can't."
he's a winner, but I think they're both winners, but they also learned where to pick their battles.
Sure, yeah, and that's a maturity thing. Like that's just a young dude thing.
Yeah.
Let's see if we're having this conversation next year about Macklin Celebrini. We'll see. We'll see.
So
We shall see.
going from young dudes to old dude, let's say,
The old dude.
the old dude,
Yeah,
Alex Ovechkin, he hits goal 887. I believe now that's 8 goals away from
he is
breaking
8 goals.
the record.
8 for the
But he
Gr8.
says, Ovi, he said that he will most likely not sign another contract extension with the Caps in 2026. So it says here that Christian, you have a hypothetical to run by. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that was you that said
You
that,
know what?
right?
Yes, it definitely was me.
Okay.
We did this conversation earlier on. I don't remember what episode it was, but we had the conversation of like, what's like the dream way for Ovechkin to break the record. I'm here to bring it back up, and I'm here to bring up actually part of the conversation that I had at that time, maybe half jokingly, but I'm very dedicated to it now. Okay,
Okay.
the best. We're talking about the best way for Alex Ovechkin, not just to break the record, but to end his career. So right now, they've got like what, 16 or 15 games left for him to get there. Like it's gonna go right down to the wire. There's that Pens game, which would be pretty storybook for him to score
Oh,
that
love
goal
it.
against the final game of the year against Crosby. Like that's awesome.
Can somehow
There is
Marc-Andre Fleury make a return appearance for that game
right,
alone?
yeah, yeah. Then there's an entire playoffs to be played. And the Caps are really good. Like I think they don't get enough respect, honestly. Like they're higher maybe in my cup contender rankings than I think I've seen a lot of analysts at least.
Hmm.
So they have a chance to win the cup, but the you're always taking the field over one specific team here. So there's a world where Ovechkin breaks this record, goes into the playoffs, and has like a sad ending to the year because they don't win the Stanley Cup. And then he's coming back next year to do what exactly? Like what is he doing in his last year? What is he gunning
Are
for?
they
Just the
even gonna
900
be?
goals? Like what are they?
Yeah.
I think they are here for good, Dave. I think the Caps are here for good. I think
Okay,
so.
fair. But are
I
they
think
going to
so.
be as good as they like this year? They're like on
The President's
contention
Trophy, right?
for
So
President's
yeah,
Trophy.
but I think they are a legitimately good team, and I think they're
Yeah.
going to stay good. But I honestly do not think it is that bad of a thing if Ovechkin doesn't break the record this season, goes into the playoffs, whatever happens, happens, comes back next year with 2 or 3 goals left, okay? And in game 14 against whoever the hell,
The Maple
he
Leafs.
scores, god damn it, he scores the goal to break the record. We have the 30-minute presentation with all the hoopla in the middle of the game. You know, he says a little speech, he waves to the crowd, and that's it. Like, he should call his career right there in the middle of that game. Like, his last shift in the NHL
should be that
the
goal.
shift he scores the goal on.
We
I
have
don't care if there's 40 minutes left in the game. Like,
yeah.
you can't, like, how do you get back into that game and sit on the bench, come
No, you
on for
can't.
some shifts? No, you go to the dressing room, you take off your gear, and that is your career.
Yeah.
I think that's how this needs to go down.
Our mutual friend, we have a friend, Brian, that was
I haven't thrown this at him. Yeah.
Dude, that's exactly what he said to me. And you know when he said that to me? In 2017.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you,
he's
Brian.
He's like, when Ovi breaks the record, he's like, I think that's it. Just drop everything on the ice, have the celebration, and leave. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, hold on, dude. Did you get that from him?
No, I honestly, I haven't talked to him here for like at least a week, and it hasn't been about the Ovi stuff. Yeah, like to me, you can't do that this year. Like if he like imagine he just like ended his career before the playoffs. Like you can't do that. The one like better scenario is he breaks the record this season and then they go on to win the cup. Like I think you should call it your career after that. Like
dude,
you cannot ride off into the sunset any better than that.
If that happens, please make the just get the documentary made now. Like you know what I mean?
So it's just I don't know. Maybe the best case scenario here is he doesn't break it in the regular season. They win the cup, then he comes back, and then like on cup raising night, he also scores the game winner. He scores the goal to break the record and calls it a career. But I don't know. I think he shouldn't play out the full season next year.
I think for me it's break the record, win the cup as well in this year.
That's definitely then come back. That is the peak.
And then come back to try to hit 900. I think that's the
listen. It's a nice round number. Like I just don't know if he would have the motivation, but I guess it does because he's saying you won't resign after 2026. So I guess maybe he is committed to next year.
I think so too.
I don't know. I also
have
doing storybook endings.
I got hit me. I actually didn't really consider the idea of having him come back, and excuse me, and score and then just drop the gloves and skate off and we never see him again on North American soil. That would be very poetic, but now it's a really long stretch. There's the rumblings that are involved and there's injury that come to play here. It's obviously the discussion that we never would have thought that this would have happened with Ovi. We would have thought Gretzky's record would have stayed for a long time. But there is a young man that is on the Leafs that, barring injury, has the minute possibility of ever coming close. So I doubt this has even entered Ovi's brain, but you can score that last goal to beat Gretzky and then skate off. But is it ever a possibility of him, like even in his mind being like, why don't I try and just score as many goals as possible till the end of my career so that there is no possibility
it's just
of
out of reach?
If that was a priority for him, he wouldn't go to Russia then. He would resign.
I think that's right? The thing is, you're absolutely right. I wonder if it's just like, let's milk this for as much as possible so then I can live in Moscow or wherever he's from. I don't want to put it on Moscow.
He's going to play it. He's going to play in Moscow. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. See that I think going for like 900, which once again, maybe, and Mando, please weigh in on this. Have you heard the term half pregnant? Like, I think that's a half pregnant approach is to get to 900 and not go all the way.
It's funny when you said that, I actually looked it up. I was like, there's got to be a reason. And it is true. It's like you have
the official
the official saying, I think, is like you can't be half pregnant, and that you have to fully commit to something. You can't
Yes.
half commit,
Yeah, I
but
don't
half
think you
That's
can
pregnant
be
exactly
half
what I'm
pregnant.
saying,
It is a
boys.
term.
Okay.
You're right.
I don't know who I
Wow.
heard it from. I don't know if it was recent or I don't know where it pulled
How
this out of my
many
brain.
newborn baby books have you been reading?
Brother,
Are you going to
right?
be a
So,
father we don't know about,
oh
Christian? Like, what the
God,
heck's
man.
going on
Oh
here?
God. I Leafs win the cup first, please. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
I had one other thing to get to here. It's not important, so we can shelve it for next episode. Yeah, you know what? I won't even tease it. I won't even tease it.
Okay, no problem. So then on that note, I don't know. Hopefully the Leafs get it back on track this week because that's the only thing that keeps me like going
4
every
games, lots
single
of
week.
opportunities.
Lots of games this week. Stay tuned for next Sunday. We'll be back. Hopefully, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to follow all the Second Look socials. And for that, there's another episode in the books.